dear esteemed professors, dear specialists, dear esteemed speakers, I want to thank you for the attention to this meeting today. Our special issues concerning artificial intelligence and nowadays law framework will be the discussion of these roundtables. First of all, I want to tell the names of our esteemed speakers today. It's Dr. Zhyldyz, Miss Selin ÇETİN KUMKUMOÐLU, who will be via internet because she cannot be here with us in person. Mr. Doğan YÖRÜK and Dr. Selva. I hope I have pronounced the names in the right way. Excuse me if I have made any wrong pronunciation. And I will introduce the discussion giving a question to you. It's a general question in order to go inside the theme, inside the issue. I would like to ask you how you see the law profession, even as law academics or lawyers or jurists, after the intervention of artificial intelligence, either as tool or as a dimension for new legal texts and guidelines. Anyone who can start, I'm at your disposal. Who wants to start?
But first of all, I would like to thank Istanbul University for hosting us. Thank you for your hospitality. I would like also to thank my colleagues who are sitting with me here. So, dear participants, I represent Kazakhstan Northwest University. So, actually, I'm teaching cyber law, I'm teaching personal data protection and e-commerce regulation. So, but my field, of course, international law also. So, you know, when I started my career in aviation law company in 2006, and when we just working with the passenger data of airlines company, we didn't talk about personal data. It was a data of passenger. But you know, the same database which we had like around 20 years ago, it's the same which we have nowadays in the civil society. So we talk about cybersecurity at that time. And actually, I worked in aviation for many years as an aviation lawyer. Cybersecurity, artificial intelligence was very typical for me. So of course I have my teaching career also, but and now when we are talking here about artificial intelligence and asking where is the human rights, where is the balance between human rights and artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. So 20 years ago we didn't talk about human rights of passengers. The most important was to just imagine how can we talk about human rights in airports or in aviation safety. In the airplane, of course, the safety is on priority. And now when we are talking about human rights, so yes, it's not easy because we, especially Central Asian countries, we want to be also in this train of digitalization. We are doing everything, we are doing effort. So you can make your banking card just in 10 seconds. Just imagine, you don't need to wait 2-3 weeks like in USA. So just 10 seconds, and machine can produce your banking card just in 10 seconds. I mean, so, but in the same time, where is the human rights to personal data protection is so difficult. So, sorry, I remember your question. So, what I want to say, of course, nowadays when I'm teaching my classes, of course, it's not easy because so we have to find the balance. And of course, when we ask you about question about artificial intelligence, I started to work in online like 15 years ago, and you know, but in our countries, we represent Asian countries, and teacher in Asian society, in Asian university, doesn't just a person who are just teaching, doing research. Now GPT could do the same research. So teacher is a model of behavior. We're not just providing some skills, knowledge. So now you can open just GPT or TikTok, everything. So, but we are model of behavior. And I'm not sure that in one day artificial intelligence could replace us. Because anyway, we're representing our generation and giving comfort of knowledge for our next generation. So that's why, because of this mentality in our Asian society, I think, I'm not sure that AI could replace us, but AI could help us when just creating some surveys, interviews, etc. And of course, AI helping our students. But now it's a difficult role of teacher how to integrate it. So, because it's not only, nowadays it seems that it's a headache of teachers how to work with it. Administration say no GPT during the exams, but help us please. How can we provide this facility without GPT if everybody uses GPT, right? Or some other artificial intelligence tool. So now we need help, not only like not only from administration, but also from the government, etc. So it cannot be only headache of the teachers. It should be headache of all society. So that's my ideas. No, our AI cannot replace, maybe in the next 5 years at least. Teacher now is the most vulnerable person in this education process.
Thank you very much. So, do you think that we will start to have a new legal language, even a sector of legal language concerning the language between the artificial intelligence needs and the law needs? I mean, for example, a new legal vocabulary concerning more technology issues, more technology words, more technology concepts. Anyone of you who wants to speak about another issue of artificial intelligence, of course, here's Selin.
Thank you. Thank you for the floor, and thank you for my distinguished professors, my esteemed professors, for inviting me here and to take a part in this panel of roundtable. I am Dr. Selva KAYNAK coach. I'm working as a teaching assistant in Istanbul University, but I'm actually from Istanbul University, where I had my PhD for a long time on copyright law. So I kind of consider myself as a copyright scholar nowadays, and hopefully artificial intelligence doesn't end the copyright law. I will try to keep on doing it. What I wanted to add to your previous question, actually, your question is constantly on my mind while I'm teaching and living and trying to say something about law. Because I find myself always coming to the same conclusion: artificial intelligence is a double-edged sword. This phrase has been used for other technologies as well during the whole history of copyright. It started with photography, then went to cinema, and then the internet has arrived. So we always use new technological developments. We always find it, especially the copyright lawyers and general legal scholars, we always find it a double-edged sword. It creates an enormous opportunities for creativeness, but at the same time it disrupts every single major foundational terminology that we know of. Like everything changes when we talk about artificial intelligence. Hopefully the law would gradually come afterwards. The technology disrupts us. But from a teacher's point of view, I would most probably say something different if I wouldn't be a legal scholar and trying to teach civil law, trying to teach copyright law, because it actually helps me a lot, I have to admit. Although I'm using artificial intelligence chatbots or everything in that range quite regularly. And I feel guilty sometimes because I'm afraid of the fact that whether they are going to replace us at some point. But from a teacher's point of view, it really helps you to understand the student, to be able to communicate with the students. It's actually making me evolve in my teaching skills as well. So I think it's really a double-edged sword right now for us. And for me, the question is, everybody in every panel asks the same question. We always end up in the same question, especially in the AI and copyright discussion yesterday. We ended up with asking how can we balance the situations of different interests right now with the coming of artificial intelligence. Well, I don't know if copyright will help, but I think copyright law would be an integral part of the artificial intelligence debate from now on. But we will see what will happen. So that could be my answer to your question, if I may say so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Selin, do you want to speak on this?
Say something about the question?
Yes, of course. I have.
Can you hear me?
You can speak on everything you want. I just gave the direction.
I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Your microphone.
I'm sorry. Miss Selin, I just told you that you can speak on any aspect you want to speak about artificial intelligence. I have just asked a question concerning if we imagine law faculty, law issues as a matrix concerning the solutions in things concerning our everyday life, how you can imagine the artificial intelligence in the sector of law.
Thank you so much. I wish I could attend this symposium in person, but I have been ill for a few days, so I hope to see you next time. As lawyers, we have started using various AI tools in the office. These last time, of course, not every application is cheap at the moment, but costs are gradually decreasing. And these raises concerns about whether it threatens the legal profession. However, I don't think it threatens the legal profession beyond automated tasks, because lawyering is not just about preparing documents, it's about visiting, for example, clients in prison, defending them in court, and so on. So these are independent tasks. But training lawyers might be a little concerned, I'm just kidding. But if we use AI tools, AI systems in our daily lives as a professional, it's not a threat for us, for now, at least. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Oman, Doğan, YÖRÜK, do you want to speak on the issue?
Yes, of course. First of all, let me introduce myself. And thank you for being here and for your time and attention. My name is Onur. I'm a research assistant at the University. I will be talking about both the questions you have to us, as well as try to build on what my fellow panelists have already discussed. First of all, if I were to say something about the technology and what it represents for law, not just AI, but technology in general, any technology that makes our lives easier is actually a challenge for lawyers, that makes our lawyers, or our lives as a lawyer, harder. Just like AI is pretty commonplace by now, but as this symposium has proved, we are dealing with its numerous facets, there are numerous problems it represents for us to solve, to discuss. It represents a challenge for us. I personally have been particularly interested in your second question, how it will change law as in general in a structural way, not just language. Of course, you use language as a prompt, but I have been always interested in how this new technology will affect law. Will there be paradigm shifts, or are current legal systems, legal paradigms prepared to handle it with a few tweaks, with just a few additions or changes? To what extent is law as a discipline ready to deal with artificial intelligence? Now, some of the applications of artificial intelligence are pretty commonplace, and by this point they don't really represent overly complex challenges for us. Most of us have subscriptions to digital platforms that get automatically renewed, for example, and payments are directly processed. This is something we're used to by now, so it doesn't create that complex challenges. Or, for example, probably many of you use rideshare apps in your daily lives. Maybe some of you came here using one. They also use similar systems. The algorithms match you to the nearest driver, etc. Such commonplace applications of AI are applications law is already familiar with. On the other hand, the AI applications go far beyond that. The entire contractual life cycles can be automated by now, and this level of automation is probably not something we're ready to deal with that much. It does represent a complex challenge for us, and it might make us question our already accepted notions. We might need to replace them, we might need to adapt them, but we will certainly have to think about it, even if we are not intending to do anything and decide that no, we are prepared to deal with it. As for the other question, what does it mean for the profession of law, whether you're a lawyer or an academic or other kind of practitioner, maybe just a law enthusiast? First of all, I'm not convinced the AI is anywhere near replacing us. Even the personhood of AI is being actively rejected by now. If I recall correctly, last week, Ohio State passed a bill that categorically rejects the personhood of AI. AI is merely a tool for us to use. It's not something to replace us. It's not capable of doing it. We will not allow it, basically, and this approach is pretty commonplace among the scholars as well. The doctrine is also not quite open to the idea of AI being equals to us, let alone replace us. It can, however, provide effective tools for us as lawyers. I personally am a researcher, however, I used to work as a lawyer, and I remember using AI-assisted tools to find something I was looking for. Not necessarily to draft a document, however, a document I'm preparing needed something I had to reference, and I asked AI to find it for me. Of course, I did the fact check later myself. Didn't just blindly put my faith in the AI. Hopefully, no, I won't, I can promise. If anything, my reliance of AI is reduced by now. My trust in it has taken a few hits, so to speak. However, it is pretty commonplace among my fellows, among the students. We are engaged on a daily basis, engaging with on a daily basis. They are even more actively used by disciplines such as engineering and other STEM fields. But of course, they are expected to be pioneers of this technology, rather than just ones taking advantage of it like ourselves. So to wrap up, I think AI will continue to be, for the foreseeable future, an object for legal science, or law as a discipline, rather than an object, an active participant of it, an actor, so to speak. This is all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we conclude that at the very end, the artificial intelligence is like a veil that covers all aspects of law. So it embraces law and it gives new perspectives and new perceptions to legal text, to legal theory, even to legal everyday life. For example, as far as copyright is concerned, the trademarks are checked when we do the research by an English system, which is an artificial intelligence tool. It is already built in an artificial intelligence tool in order to find more easily if there is already registered the same trademark. So we use it a lot of years before this discussion. We need it for our researches, for our articles, for our PhD thesis, for our research in general. So, if we can mix the technology word, the technology terms with the legal technical terms, we can have another language that lawyers from different fields of law, lawyers in general, not only attorneys at law, also academics, juries, everyone who is in the law profession. So, if we make a mixture of legal text, technical legal words, and words coming from technology, we can create another language that more and more perspectives can be mixed and give different perspectives to our law profession. Is that right?
I always believe that, and I've experienced that the development of technology somehow at the very beginning always be a part of a more equal democratization to access to knowledge, to access to different views, access to different people from different genres, so it somehow manages to bring us together. But here, yeah, so I do believe that we can achieve something like that, but my problem is how. It will take time. It always took time in the history. Well, my question generally stays in my mind is we as lawyers, we always come afterwards. We always come to somehow make the ground better after it was disturbed by the technological developments. But this time we are literally coming from backwards, and we should be, because we don't know what's coming towards us. We don't know what's coming us. We don't know what we should do. Should we interrupt as legal scholars? Should we do something, or should we stay silent? Or should we wait someone else, other jurisdictions, to do something, watch them, and then somehow get their experiences to make better solutions. That's what's on my mind in general with the artificial intelligence, because it just keeps going and it evolves really very fast, and as legal scholars I am not very sure that we can catch up with it.
Do any of you want to add something before I go?
Yes. So when we talk about the legal language, it also depends on the countries, on the region of the world, so the level of the digitalizations. So for example, in Central Asian countries, actually, we have the similarity of languages. I mean, when we are talking now, previous Kazakh, Uzbek language, etc. But when we are talking among experts in international tech development, so we understand that each country trying to translate all those English languages into our own language. And now internet in Kazakh language sounds sort of crazy terminology in Kazakh language. Kyrgyz people has other own terminology. When we're talking about some new words, we have, I think, trying to find the single one words which will be world recognized for every nation and will be acceptable everywhere. So I just wanted to make some remark regarding how AI changing the law field. You know, I mean, we have to admit it's changed everything. In Kazakhstan, for example, what I wanted to say, yes, Kazakhstan is in the process of drafting digital code of Republic of Kazakhstan. Neighboring state, Kyrgyzstan, already not just drafted, but already adopted the digital code. Maybe it's one of the first countries in the world. Kazakhstan wants to be the second one. So digital code, yes, it's a codification of all new technologies which we have in our countries, for example, and it's a really interesting experience. I highly recommend you to check the experience of Kazakhstan. Drafting the digital code, I mean, I think it's a second constitution actually, because change everything is not so easy. But Kazakhstan changing legislation every 2-3 months. If you talk about the e-commerce, we have long online platforms. If you talk about some new challenges in online personal data protection, there are several already new amendments. We are drafting also the AI law. Now it's just under the consideration of Parliament. So also providing our terminology, what is the meaning of AI. If you talk about AI assistants, Supreme Court has owned AI assistants just to analyze all court decisions. Yes. If you talk about the digitalization of judicial system, Kazakhstan on the 4th place in the world of the digitalization of the Supreme Court, of the court system in the world, I mean. So if you talk about the ministries, in September, Kazakhstan created the Ministry of Artificial Intelligence. So what I wanted to say also, just 1 month ago, Pavel Durov, Telegram founder, CEO of Telegram, came to Kazakhstan and opened own AI laboratory under the governmental platform, and now connecting with the Kazakhstani authority. So in Kazakhstan now, when we talk about AI, it's nothing new. So even the Ministry of Education created the, we call it like new set of new professions, which gonna be created because of the digitalization process. So the new professions now have to be produced and also have to be implemented. This program should be implemented in all universities in Kazakhstan. So, I mean, nowadays, not only government trying to do a lot to provide this development, but also private sector. There are a lot of IT companies creating interesting startups. And if you talk about legal tech, yes, there are already legal tech programs, legal tech, private companies, and what I like in Kazakhstan, actually I'm not reading Kazakhstan, but what I like in Kazakhstan, government closely work with private sector and with civil society in the field of the development of this field. No, not maybe in some other fields, there is no this communication and cooperation, but in the field of artificial intelligence, personal data protection, some type of digitalization and especially IT startups, public awareness, etc. Yes, government working with private sector. That's why I think it's a good experience in the just implementing the new. But of course, it's not easy, I think, because when we say law just is so slow in Kazakhstan, law changing every 2-3 months, it's so difficult for practitioners to implement all those amendments. I mean, it's not easy, especially for teachers to change all our curricula, syllabus presentation. Last year when I teach my e-commerce class, now I have to just throw out all these materials to bring new one because the legislation has been changed. Because the new online platforms have been created. I mean, it's not easy to teach those classes because it's so dynamic now. Yeah, thank you.
So, the speed of developing artificial intelligence at the very end pushes us to have the same speed in the legal profession, in the draft of legal text, in drafting, for example, guidelines. Even the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development has created the guidelines like a framework concerning the next legal text of the different jurisdictions on how we can go through artificial intelligence in law. So, this is a reality. Artificial intelligence is a reality that is very helpful for us. It gives us more time in creating more researches, even if we have to check the results of these researches, we use them, and it gives us more parameters, more dimensions to think about. Because, for example, some tools of artificial intelligence give the guidelines on how we can search. So, even we think that it has some defaults right now, artificial intelligence is a chance for expanding our legal minds. What do you think on this? You will speak both of you, so who wants to start?
I actually have nothing to say because I don't have anything to say to this because I totally do agree with you. I think it will just, in the end, if we just be a little bit patient and a little bit cautious, I think it would be good for us. That's what I believe, or maybe it's what I hope, let me say. So that's why I wanted to leave the floor to you.
Okay, as you wish. This actually aligns with my previous statement rather well, where I described AI as a challenge from a different perspective. I guess we could say that it is also an opportunity for us to expand our legal mind. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive with being a challenge. After all, challenges help us expand our horizons. It also relates to what I wanted to say about the previous question, so I will segue back to that question briefly here. When trying to regulate artificial intelligence, or basically anything new, once again, we run into this problem where we have to learn about technical terms we may not be familiar with necessarily if we're not particularly interested in that field, or if we don't have a background. We need to be able to make sense of them. We need to be able to attach them a meaning that will be used in our regulation or interpretation phase. For example, we keep talking about artificial intelligence, but what meaning do we attach to this term when we're talking about it? Should we understand the capacity to solve problems like a human mind, even though it's a machine? Should we understand that ability of machines, or should we understand the AI applications in general, or maybe a specific one of them, like generative AI, for example? I thought of that because it's the most common one. This, of course, requires an extensive mental process that forces us to develop new perspectives. Without these new perspectives, we will not be able to understand what we're trying to regulate in the first place, so all of our attempts will fail from the start. I can't think of anything to add for the time being. If any of my fellow panelists would like to say anything.
I just wanted to add something to your question when you were talking about an international understanding and the role of the international organizations at this point. And the guidelines, that's where my idea actually came from. Like, we have to be patient and cautious and just first learn, at least at a national level for legal scholars. We should just wait and learn and try to keep up with the guidelines, but as you said, it's constantly changing. I cannot talk about from every legal perspective, but from copyright perspective, in the area of copyright, WIPO is doing these sessions regularly in the area of copyright law, intellectual property law, and artificial intelligence, and these sessions generally occurs once or twice in a year, and for the last 3 years they have been constantly getting together. They created a new gathering, the name is IP and AI sessions. They are not even making a regular seminar, they're just making it as sessions because they have to do it regularly considering the history. And if my memory serves well, we are in the 11th session for the last 2 years, which is too much. But they recognize, I learned so many things from those sessions as a legal scholar and who is trying to comment on the legal aspects and involvement of artificial intelligence in a relatively normatively silent country, because we have not been acted like Kyrgyzstan or Kazakhstan. We are a little bit on the silent part, but I am sure that we will move on further. But my question relies on the fact that they have been doing the sessions. So many stakeholders take part in it, so many members. If we talk about WIPO and UNESCO, so many member states, but we still have no binding or any binding rules, any attempt for an international agreement, which in the area of copyright law, I meant not the other parts. But copyright law, legal scholars, we actually like international agreements. We love them. We first waited for WIPO or the supranational organizations to give us some binding international agreements, and then we amend the law. I believe Turkey and most of the economically developing countries are waiting for those supranational organizations to guide us in a more binding way, so that we can go on with the right steps. But they are also remaining kind of silent. So that's why international cooperation is so, in the area of copyright law at least, so very much has the utmost importance nowadays for the countries who are remaining silent, not for the countries for AI developers, which we all know, and I don't want to rename them, but for the other countries, I think it's very important.
So I agree with you, Selin. So because Kazakhstan also between Russia and China, between giants, the IT giants, and also Google, Facebook, everywhere, I think, right? So international cooperation is so important now, not just because we need to know what is AI. AI brings positive moments, but also negative in the form of cyber crimes. Cyber crimes, cyber criminals are everywhere. How to fight with them? That's why, of course, nowadays academies, law enforcement academies are producing special specialization like cyber officer, in Kazakhstan. So it's not easy. For example, yes, we announce about that, but who are going to teach there? So there is also difficult questions. So that's why nowadays Kazakhstan are hiring a lot of people outside. Welcome to Kazakhstan. So hiring a lot of people who can train those people, because cyber crimes, a lot of people suffering because of cyber criminals. So I just wanted to also talk about your question, just very short note that just 1 month ago I finished my articles when we talk about legal regulation. I wanted to talk about more about guidelines. We need guidelines in all sectors how to use AI. Just my perception of how to use AI. What does it mean guideline? We mean ethical norms, also ethics. What is the ethical norms of using AI? So if we will have this internal relation when in one university, how to use AI or the face recognition system installation. So of course it would be very important. So even in some universities just so proud to install those face recognition system for entering to the university, but didn't get permission of students, consent of people. Of course it's not good. What I wanted to say is Kazakhstan trying to be fast, but not only Kazakhstan, many countries trying to be in the same, as I say, train of digitalization, but we need to talk also about mentality of people. So about that, are people ready to accept all those technologies? That's a very difficult question. Ethical norms, guidelines, we should start maybe from very technical also instruction, how to use those technology. And then, of course, maybe to produce really good legal regulation. So, how to change the mind? That's a question. That's a really difficult question. And we could see that our minds of our people, for example, in Kazakhstan, changed not by government, changed by TikTok, but social network, but Instagram, but all those again, it's an algorithm of IT giant companies, which actually are not local. That's a problem again. It's again not about law, it's even not about philosophy, it's again about this great game, political game of other countries. It's true, unfortunately. So that's why, of course, it's an interdisciplinary now how to find those guidelines and to create. But again, we need to back to the ethical norms of using AI. And it's not easy.
Of course, AI applications is like a liquid. They enrich every aspect of different fields, not only different fields of law, but different fields of science in general. So, as far as cyber crimes are concerned, from the one hand, artificial intelligence applications gave us some tools in order to combat cybercrime. For example, money laundering. There are systems that give us the red flags when there is a situation of cybercrime. On the other hand, it gives us more opportunities to do it. It gives us alternative situations, alternative applications, alternative solutions in order to do cybercrime. However, as far as nowadays is concerned, I think that even if it is a global issue, how to create the mentality of how to use artificial intelligence to applications, I'm not really sure that the legal culture of every different state can cooperate in order to conclude to this international guidelines, legal texts, soft law, any kind of legal text that can teaches us this mentality. Because at the very end, behind artificial intelligence, there are humans, and humans create the culture. Humans create the tradition. So, the balance among different states and how we can create this mentality, even we use the cover of a supranational organization, I think it is a really difficult and enigmatic balance at the very end. I don't know if Ms. KUMKUMOÐLU wants to speak to us, if she wants to add something. If you want, you can interrupt anytime. I don't. I haven't told you to speak on this because I thought that if you want, you can interrupt anytime. Okay? I think. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. If you want to interrupt us in order to say something, we are at your attention.
Yeah, thank you so much. In connection with the question about the very common international culture or how maybe, I would like to share a few notes regarding the UNESCO's project and a general aspect from Turkey. This year, we as the law office provided consultancy services for UNESCO's AI readiness project. The report of the project reveals how Turkey uses this technology in various fields, from economics to law, culture, education, health, and to what extent it benefits from this technology. And the other countries also have these reports from South America to Europe and other countries. We observe that Turkey's intensity of use this technology has increased over the years. It's important because when used correctly, it can increase students' access to service, for example. However, it's also crucial that its legal bases are properly established and that it's used in compliance with the rule of law and democracy. Otherwise, a scenario emerges where fundamental rights are left unprotected. The report has been completed and will be published before the end of this year, and I hope it will be useful for Turkey and interested parties. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Personally, I think that law without change is, let's say, goes directly to fail. So we have artificial intelligence as a matter, let's say, of guidance on how we can create new forms, new systems on penal law, on civil law, on public law, even public procedures. For example, public administrative law can complete procedures more easily, timeless, and let's say in a more human way, because you have the reply to an administrative procedure more fast and more easy, then the life of the citizens is more easy. It needs less time to be occupied with some procedures, and it needs less people who have to be involved in this procedure. Even if we speak about citizens who have no knowledge of law, the new tools of artificial intelligence can engage them in the everyday life of some legal procedure. It gives, for example, more opportunities to make an application upon administrative authorities, or completing a personal procedure more easily. For example, procedures that are only via documents, so they can upload the documents, the system check the documents and issue the reply. However, my question is how we create a new system, a new meta-language, a new, let's say, meta-legal system concerning people well-educated in this technology in order not to do a crime without their knowledge. For example, sometimes using artificial intelligence in copyright law, we create trademarks that cross-check other trademarks. However, if we use it, if we create a trademark without knowing the system of copyright law, even if we have the chance to create this trademark, we conclude to make a problem to the trademark of the other people who have the right to use it. So,
well, I guess this question referred to me. Actually, this is one of the main questions that the legal scholars, not the practitioners, but more on the philosophical side of the legal, philosophical side of the copyright law scholars are trying to answer, because this question is about something that you do not think of, you do not intend to do. Yes. People who use artificial intelligence for creating a work or designing a trademark or generally making a design, if they do not have the bad intentions of just copying something, I mean, this is something else. There is no question in the infringement part of that, but sometimes it happens that you do not want to do something like this. Your intention is not to copy something. Your intention is just to use the chatbots or any kind of AI tool just to help yourself. But it happens without your knowledge. And there was this discussion in Harvard University whether it would consider it to be as plagiarism. Because plagiarism being a violation, it needs to be, you have to, it has to be intentionally. So you have this intent of plagiarizing someone else's work in this case. But with chatbots and everything, sometimes you just ask, I mean, I do not want to say that I did this myself, but sometimes you just say, yes, I want to write, let's say that I'm going to apply for a PhD. Since I have done my PhD, this example won't be for me, but let's say that I'm going to apply for a PhD. I don't have any idea. I know the area that I'm going to work, but I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to work on. So what I do, I go to one of the chatbots and I ask, I want to work on the subject and I want to find a subject that is not very well discovered. So there are gaps in the scholarship. Could you help me find this? And it just gives you an amazing, it can give, I tried, it can give you really, really very good ideas, very elaborate ones, very academic ones, not hallucinations. And if you want to check, there are no hallucinations. It actually gives you a perfect research proposal within like half an hour, let's say. But then you realize that the outputs that the chatbots gave you with the perfect academic background was somebody else's ideas. And somebody else has written something about it years ago. You didn't know that. You really, I didn't know that. I didn't have the intention to do something like that. But it just happened, and I applied to a PhD program with the exact research proposal. And then what happens? So that's a question that we have to, and that's just a small example, but that's a question that we have to dwell on this. That's why I guess my colleagues' reference was I'm using it less and less by the day is a little bit related related with the public's trust in the chatbots and us being more educated day by day. How to use it regularly, how to use it properly, how to not infringe the rights of others, how to not place ourselves in a position that we actually unintentionally infringe the law that we have no intention to do it. And I don't have an answer for it, sorry.
So I like the question how AI could just to update my public administration, right? And how we can create this AI culture. So when we talk about public administration, about government, right? I think it's not again easy question because when we have AI, when we have electricity and internet. But in every country we have rural areas where people don't have electricity and we don't have internet. Especially in Central Asia countries, majority of countries are mountainous countries. There is no access for internet, there is no even sometimes electricity. So can we talk about like equal rights and equality between people when we're talking about right for internet? No. So when we could, I mean, it's first of all, how many countries have this established right, constitutional right for internet? No one.
We tried. Turkey actually tried, but there were so many groups that were trying.
But not in constitution rights,
yeah.
And in every case, in any case of mass riots, political tensions, right for internet could be blocked by the countries. So that's why sometimes when we talk about public administration, so AI integration, sometimes just back to the, just check your country, how many people have really right for internet. So that's why I'm also teaching digital rights, and it's not difficult. We have to highlight which right is digital right, which right could be really provided by government. And again, when we talk about the same digital code, actually I'm in favor of the digital code. I mean, it should be about all people of whole country, right? So right for internet, right for electricity, like right for drinkable water should be the same. And we have to talk about the digital equality among people. And then, of course, we could talk about maybe public administration. So when we talk about another your question, very good question about AI culture. Human creates AI culture, but nowadays algorithms, AI giant companies also creating our AI culture. So you see what does it mean? In this case, I think we need not only legal researchers, we also need psychological researchers, psychology people have to be with us and to explain what's going on if the person just sitting in the internet for 24 hours. So you see, maybe we need some real legal restriction, don't use internet for 24 hours. Yes, because culture, anyway, creating humans, but humans are under this TikTok vibes every day, every minute, or social network really, it's playing important part of our life. And when we talk about the AI culture, we have to know what is the AI for us. So what is the personal data, what is the digital rights in this culture, and what is the, for example, personal data culture here? Again, I think we couldn't talk about the global culture because different region, different countries, different perspectives. And for example, if the personal data for European person is something another perspective, for Central Asian people, personal data is something another. We have another point of view. For example, in Kazakhstan, how old are you married? So how many kids do you have? It's a very typical question. But in the European perspective of personal data protection, of course, it's not allowed. But in our country, you cannot reply to this question. So you see, it's about mentality. We have good legislation about personal data protection now. We have to implement it on the cultural level. So, of course, we need time for that.
Thank you very much. As far as on what you have commented so far, me as a person, I want to ask something. you have spoken a little bit earlier about intentions of plagiarism. It's not something that bad if we don't have this intention. So, if using artificial intelligence application create a new way of making something that is in between a cybercrime and a legal situation. Do we have an intention or we have an invention? For example, if using a digital bank, nowadays digital banks is something that is well accepted in the majority of jurisdictions. 7 years ago, digital bank was out of public control. So we couldn't have the right percentages as well as the right data concerning, for example, bank deposits, bank transfers. However, nowadays we speak about digital banks, it is inside our bank sector. If a very good IT manager creates something like this, but at the very end compute money laundering, how we can evaluate this? How we can conclude to a summary of if this is something that we can accept and we can make the legal framework in order to be to legalize it, or if this is out of the borders of something legal. I mean, when technology inserts our legal sector, the boundaries are really liquid. Because from the one hand we have a new idea, from the other hand we have a situation that is out of our legal borders, even if the culture, the level of the culture of the country is not so up to date AI applications, how we can evaluate this? To summarize my question is, the boundaries of a cybercrime is really liquid because the intention sometimes cannot be prescribed in advance. If someone creates a new application that is part of an artificial intelligence, let's say question, an artificial intelligence solution, then we can conclude to commit a crime, but without having this intention.
That's why there are, for example, we conducted training for people who are creating startups. People really didn't have any idea to violate somebody's personal data, for example, but creating wonderful app, how to monitor their own wife, so just for maybe for her safety. Husband didn't ask permission. For example, there were several startups and they came for me for consultation about personal data and come on, you in the future you will be anyway in the trouble. So that's why again we back to education. We back to education. We have to train our not only students, children from the preschool and then in the middle school everywhere, what is the ethical norms again, what is the legislation of AI usage again and again and again, because nowadays startup it's not an old person or adult person, sometimes it's just children. So they need to see this line. And when we talk about the criminals, hackers, sometimes children became hackers not because they want a lot of money, they want just to play. And this video game wasn't enough for them. They started, okay, I broke this, I decided, let's make, just block the National Bank website, why not? For example, last year in Kyrgyzstan, tax service website was blocked for 1 day, and on the first slide of the website you could see, we are Vietnamese hackers, we just have a fun, that's why we blocked your tax service website of the Kyrgyz Republic. I mean, they say we just have a fun on theirs. So maybe they judge children. So you see, children also have to see this line, what is the ethical norms, what is the white, what is the black. And we also have to show again, it's again about education. Unfortunately, we have to back to the educational field, and AI cannot train our children. Of course, we have to train school teachers. We have to, and for example, we had some pro bono projects where we are working with schools, and also explain what is the cyber hygiene, what is the personal data of children, and what are the ethical norms of artificial intelligence. It's really important.
Now, I agree that the use of AI usually leads to some circumstances where we cannot make the distinction between a cybercrime or just maybe an immoral act, even though technically legal. We need to delve into criminal law in such cases, which is a much less tolerant field of law to such gray areas. There are crimes defined by the criminal code, and if conditions of one of these crimes are met by our actions, by our use of AI, in that case, yes, we will have to be considered to have committed such a crime. However, if we can talk about a gray area, however slim, however small, if there is a sliver of doubt that our actions remain in the gray, we cannot come to the conclusion that a crime has taken place. In that case, we will have to decide that no, the crime has not taken place, and if necessary, we will go to their civil law responsibility if they caused harm to someone, if they caused another party to have losses, incur losses, then they might have to compensate them. However, from a criminal law perspective, we wouldn't be able to consider it a crime, as long as there are gray areas. And if this constitutes an issue that needs to be addressed by law, then lawmakers will have to work on that issue, which of course will likely be the case, considering how fast our own internet laws are subject to change. We are in a tendency to overly regulate the area, so to speak. So I'm sure there will be new crimes and changes to definitions of existing crimes in this field. However, as long as there are gray areas, I'm inclined to say that it will be to the suspect's advantage in this case.
So you think that we can just interpret the already existing legal terms in a way that will cover all artificial intelligence aspects, or we have to create some new legal terms in order to cover the drastic situation, this reality at the very end?
Well, let's say I used AI to commit a currently existing crime, to access someone else's computer system, illegally access their personal data, maybe even remove them or steal them and sell them. I might have done it in a way that utilizes AI as a tool in this case. For example, I made ChatGPT write a program that allowed me illegal access to this other person's computer. Or I might have written a program entirely by myself that will complete the process fully automated. It will automatically break into the other party's computer and transfer the data to mine. It doesn't matter the nature of my AI using this situation. I have committed a crime. I could have done this entirely the old-fashioned way. I could have stolen the computer itself, then taken it home and accessed it there. In this particular situation, the use of AI wouldn't change anything. So, creating new legal terminology or defining the crime in a way that would necessarily include AI wouldn't make any difference. However, I'm trying to think of a crime that in which use of AI would make a difference. If you have any ideas.
I think that new crimes will arise because nowadays we don't really have the image, the reality of a new cybercrime because it hasn't happened yet. This is why I asked if we will just widen the already existing legal framework or we will be guided to form, to create a new one. And one more question is, we have all, may I inform, jurists have to be educated in a new way of checking if a crime exists or not. I mean, if somebody has committed a crime or not, because some situations will be so much in between a crime and not a crime, and maybe a new crime that we don't have formed it yet because the due diligence process so far hasn't found the red flags for saying that this is a crime or not. Do you want to comment?
I just realized I'm sorry for always taking the subject back to
It's okay,
copyright.
if I may just say something short, one sentence or two, I think. If a new crime has to be defined, it would be an exercise for lawmakers because as long as a crime doesn't exist defined in the criminal code or any other code for that matter, basically if the legal system doesn't regulate something, an action, any action as a crime, then we cannot consider it a crime as practitioners. If I was a judge and something I found personally immoral came in front of me, but it isn't defined as a crime, described as a crime, it doesn't constitute a crime according to my legal system, so my personal convictions shouldn't matter in this case. I shouldn't consider them guilty and decide accordingly. Which is why I think that is not an issue for the practitioners, not the lawmakers.
Yes, of course.
I'm sorry I was a little bit late in apprehending your question, but I guess what you were trying to ask us is if we're talking about a crime, regardless of jurisdiction, there has to be an intent most of the time. And since artificial intelligence sometimes acts instead of us, instead of our intent or our will, then how can we draw the line if we actually committed this crime or not? That's, of course, was your question. So I cannot comment so much on the crime situation, but crime area, but I can just. This kind of questions will always arise. Actually, again, from an example from copyright, that actually arise when the piracy and when peer-to-peer file sharing was just went across the whole universe. Napster became the new frontier, and we can download every single music and cinema and film and movies whenever we wanted, and it was an amazing opportunity for all of us. But since it was an opportunity for all of us, but from the right holder side, they were furious, and they were like acting really very furious, and they were trying to say that this is totally illegal, which they already said it when the personal recording devices, the video recorders, actually entered our homes in 1950s. They again said they are really bad. They have to be considered illegal. They have to, because they are all making available the personal reproduction of the works. So this should be deemed as a crime, and it actually deemed as a crime, and now it is, I mean, in every jurisdiction, it is a crime whether you intend or not. But there was this case in the US, it was about the personal recorders, and the judge was trying to explain, and I think we can amend it to artificial intelligence as well. There is the blade, and yes, a blade can harm people, it can kill people, but it is not the main purpose of the blade. A knife's main purpose is just to cut down and help people in normal daily life. So if we want to deem something as illegal, we have to look at the main purpose of it. If we just adapt this to artificial intelligence as your question, if that application using artificial intelligence or your examples, the main goal is just to harm somebody else, just commit a crime, then yes, maybe the one who is using it cannot defend himself or herself as, but I didn't intend it. But if the main purpose is something else, you can do other things with the same application, like create something, then I think that's the gray area, which I will just bind it to the very first question, actually. That's why in copyright or in intellectual property, scholars always talking about a technology-free way of regulating the legal text. So if we just try to use less technological words, then we will avoid the risk of falling behind the developments of technology, which is actually why, if you look at from the copyright perspective, if you look at the Digital Single Market Directive of European Union, you cannot find artificial intelligence, the word artificial intelligence, anywhere in the text. They purposely didn't use it because they didn't know what it would mean in artificial intelligence is. And with this way, they, from the report, of course, not from the first time, but from the reports, they tried to make it technology neutral so that it will make the text go on and on as long as possible, and they can put everything in it and they can take everything out of it.
So, if you talk about cybercrimes, it's again about international cooperation. This month they cover some ratify UN Convention fighting cybercrimes. So it's again about international cooperation. And it's about the training of the law enforcement agency officials. So just 2 points how we can fight cybercrime.
Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for your attention. I wish you all the best for the continuing of this symposium.